Here we are again with TMPodcast 84, coming with the second episode. Your host, David Santiago, Toastmaster and a seeker of public speaking knowledge, tips and insights, hopefully sharing with our audience here ways that you can improve as a speaker. And today, we have another amazing speaker with us, Mr. Ryan Stiner. And so I would like to welcome Ryan to the show. Before I go over and we go over and start our regular interview here on our podcast, I just want to share what I know about you, just kind of like on the surface so that our audience gets an idea, as I am going into the interview. Let me even take a step back here and just share what we're trying to do here at TM Podcast 84. So what we want to do is share public speaking insights, tips for, first of all, for Toastmasters out there that are seeking to know what other speakers are doing, but also for your speakers out there in general, and for you guys that are listening in thinking, hey, I could be a public speaker. I want to go out there. I want to have that awesome presentation. I want people to hear my message. And so hopefully this podcast will motivate you to do that. And that's why I reach out to amazing speakers like Ryan Stiner here so that you can get motivated. And here's what I know about you, Ryan. I know you're awesome. That's number one. But I also know that you're into magic, mentalism. Just having watched a couple of your, or listened to and watched a couple of your talks, I know that you're very witty. I know that you're comfortable presenting, being in front of large audiences. And I know that you bring it when you speak. So that's kind of like the general idea of what I know about you. But as we do with our podcast, we like to focus on 5 questions here for time purposes. And so we're going to jump into our very first question and then just turn it over to you. And if you will, just share with us and our audience, what is your speaker's story? In other words, what was that one time that or it could be an event that you said, hey, you know what? I'm a speaker, or I would like to present. I would like to have an audience. I would like to share my message. What was your story?
I'm really not so much a speaker as rather an entertainer.
Okay.
I've had a background in theater, lots of community theater. I was also a cast member at Walt Disney World here in Orlando. Nice. And that time that I spent on stage is something that I've also brought with me to Toastmasters. Now here at Wyndham, I'm a trainer. And as a trainer and a curriculum designer, I'm in part writing my own scripts or these scripts that other trainers are going to use. And then when I'm delivering the training, it's essentially like doing a one-man multi-act play.
Got performance. It. So would you say that public speaking is not only a passion of yours because it's something you do to entertain people, but it's also something you do professionally as well?
Sure. It's not just a passion, it's a vocation. It's what I get to do every day here at work. And then I get different styles of speaking. When I'm working, it's a very different type of public speaking. And then I take a break from that speaking all day long to come give up my lunch hour to go do a different type of public speaking in Toastmasters, which gets to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more fun, which I think is probably what you've seen reflected in the style of speeches. My speeches tend to be less of a structured, formal speech and more of a perhaps quirky, entertaining topic and delivery.
Yeah, I remember distinctly one of your talks, and you said this will never be done again.
That's right.
And it was an amazing sort of mentalist exhibition that you did for us. So I love the way you're creative about your talks with your Toastmasters speech. So, but speaking of Toastmasters, how did you come across Toastmasters, and what made you join?
Well, it's free when you do it here at Wyndham, so that was the big motivation. I was aware of Toastmasters previously from other employers. I know of it as a professional organization in the community, but when I had the opportunity to get involved in it and have my department sponsor my membership, it was an easy decision. It was a great opportunity.
Win-win, huh?
Absolutely, something that allows me to further build upon my experience and skill, and it's encouraged by my employer.
So yeah, I mean that's a great place to be. But just for some of our audience members that are listening in, and a lot of times Toastmasters we're sort of put in a pigeonhole, and one of the pigeonholes are that it's for someone who's afraid of public speaking, someone who's never done public speaking. But you're coming from having years of experience, and still you're getting something from it.
Absolutely. It's for people of all levels of public speaking skill and talent. So if you're doing it just for the opportunity to break out of that shyness or that stage fright that you might have, it's a great environment for that. If you're doing it because you feel that you're already at a very strong level and you want to become more competitive, it's a great environment for that. For me, the reason why I keep coming back, in addition to the enjoyment that I have from it, I want to challenge myself with the table topics. That's my favorite thing that we do. So
let's get into that.
Yeah, I like to have things scripted, or at least have some kind of a framework beforehand, which is not something that you get with table topics. And quite honestly, I hate some of the topics.
Okay.
I hear people go up there and they pull the topic and they read it, and I cringe and I think, oh gosh, I'm glad I didn't get that one because that one's terrible. But secretly, I would have enjoyed the opportunity to have pulled that one, because it does force me to really challenge myself and think of how would I address this. And that is a good exercise for anybody that I think has found themselves in a job interview where they're anxious about what are the questions that they're going to give me. And is it going to be one of those stupid questions that I dread? Something like, well, the most basic, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Nobody likes the what are your strengths and weaknesses questions. Or they might throw out one of those left field questions like, tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Oh. Something ridiculous that you're really not prepared for, and you've got to go right there. You need to come up with a response. Right. That's exactly what Table Topics is about.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, you just describing that, you had my heart pumping. I'm thinking, am I ready for this?
Right.
So that's awesome. But that's a good segue to our next question here, and it's about preparedness. Now, a lot of times, again, Toastmasters, they're thought of as these super prepared speakers that, they're almost so prepared that they become boring, maybe. But how do you approach preparing for a speech, or just your mindset when, even as a trainer or as a performer? How do you approach the whole preparation part of a speaker?
In speech and debate club in high school, I used to actually script out my speeches, and I would try to memorize speeches as if I'm memorizing a monologue. And as I've grown older and more experienced, I've decided that's just really not what's comfortable for me, and that's not what I think that the audiences enjoy when I'm delivering it. So I'll have a framework, bullet points. I might make note cards, maybe stick it to a simple Post-it note.
Okay.
Or I might just try to wing the entire thing. If I know what the message is, if I can build upon a message, and that's good enough, I've got a time frame, I can go from there. Others, I approach my speeches the same way that I might approach as a magician, the same way that I'd approach my magic tricks. The magic trick, you can't just go on stage and poof, make something appear and then step off stage. That's not enough. You need to have a story. There's a reason why you went up stage. There's a reason why you're making something appear. There's a reason why you're going to do this card trick. It's not just simply pick a card, I'm going to guess your card.
Right.
But at the core of it, you've got the illusion. So you get the illusion, and then you build out around that. With one of my most recent speeches, I talked about this geekspiracy identified in Back to the Future. And in Back to the Future, I knew I wanted to talk about this topic, and I had the clip from the movie. So I knew I needed to have the clip. And then I knew that I also wanted to end my 5-minute speech with Marty McFly saying, "This is heavy." I knew that much. So since I was going to craft a 5-minute video that was going to play in the background, and I would narrate the entire video.
Which you synchronized, which was amazing.
Thank you. It helped keep me in. I couldn't go less than 5 minutes.
Right.
And I wouldn't go much over 5 minutes because I had that video. So I had my ending whoa, this is heavy. And I had my middle, the clip that we were going to analyze, and then I just kind of built out from there and filled in the gaps. So that's how I came up with what this speech would be. There was a little bit more scripting to that one because I knew I had to fill in certain gaps since I had a preset video.
Right.
But even with the more scripting, I would have my bullets. I knew how much time I had before the next clip came up, or before we transitioned into something else, or before the music changed. So I'd fill in those gaps, leave a little extra room for pauses.
Got it.
And then make sure that I hit the mark before Marty said, this is heavy.
This is heavy. And it was like right on cue, which it just put the cherry on top. And I should also know you were voted as the best speaker for that day, which was triple win right there.
Thank you.
So that was awesome. So just going over here, wanting to know a little bit about your goals. One of the questions we ask our guests here is, what is your speaker goal or something that you're shooting for? Again, it could be something within Toastmasters, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're going for Vegas in your case.
I'm really just doing it for fun. Okay. My goal when I deliver the speech, as some of the other Toastmasters might have noticed, when you see each of my speeches, there doesn't seem to be a consistent theme from speech to speech, and I don't really seem to be following any kind of pathways plan, because I'm not.
Okay. I mean, no pun intended, right? Like you are on pathways, but you're not following a particular pathway.
Exactly.
As far as the speeches that you're sharing.
Right. I'm just coming up with something that I feel that I want to speak about,
nice.
And I might try to shoehorn it into one of those specific dictated pathways topics, but other times I'm just going to give something, and at the end of my 5 to 7 minutes, I just hope that you were entertained, and that's my goal with each speech. I hope that I delivered something that the fellow Toastmasters enjoyed.
I just picture you as a gladiator right now saying, "Are you not entertained?"
Absolutely, I can do my best Russell Crowe.
I can see you doing that.
Thank you.
But what would be like an event that you could say when you're there, you're invited there, or people are coming to see you there, that you would say, you know what, this is an accomplishment. I've kind of made it. For example, for myself, if I made it to the international stage as a public speaker, even if I was just a participant and not necessarily winning it, I would say, wow, this is amazing. I've made it somewhere. Also, if people were actually paying money to come hear me speak, I would be blown away. But what would be something for you?
Anytime somebody that has a need for a guest speaker or an MC, and they then think of my name and contact me, that's a win.
So and is this for particular?
This is both here at work, opportunities that I've had where there have been other things throughout different departments, or for the company as a whole, where they've needed somebody to speak or to host or just simply introduce one of our executives, and they say, you know what, Ryan's comfortable doing that.
Yes.
We've got something that's going to happen in half an hour, and we need somebody up here. Ryan's can do that. That's awesome. That's great that I'm the name that they would think for. That, or other things within the community. I translate this to some of my other professional organizations as a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I can use my speaking and mixing that in with magic, or as a member of the Freemasons, the civic organization, when we do stuff for the community, and they know that I would be willing to do something either at the Masonic Lodge or at the shrine for the Shriners, the guys with the funny hats and the tiny cars.
Fantastic. I mean, there's so much there that you just laid out, and I mean, so many speaking opportunities. But talk about a direct example of the ROI for Toastmasters is, within your department or within the company, someone thinks, hey, we need a speaker. Boom, Ryan, Toastmaster. Awesome. But just speaking, you mentioned amazing organizations there. What are some speakers or that you admire, or you can use as a model yourself? Yeah. What are some of the speakers you look up to?
Because of my style, it's not so much the professional speakers that I look to.
So you're not looking at like a Tony Robbins?
No, I'm really actually looking more towards the storytellers, because that's what my style more is as I'm a storyteller. In some cases, these storytellers, it's their writing that then I hear their voice as I read them. For example, the witty script writing of Kevin Smith or Quentin Tarantino, or perhaps the interaction and byplay between classic comedians like Abbott and Costello or the Three Stooges. There's so much deeper there in those comedy routines. It's very cleverly written, and it's that kind of storytelling and those puns, the more intellectual jokes that I enjoy. Or have you ever heard of a shaggy dog story? Do you know what a shaggy dog story is?
I'm dying to know.
Okay, so a shaggy dog story is a type of joke that I enjoy a lot. Shaggy dog stories are marked by being very, very long-winded, heavy in narration, seeming to go absolutely nowhere, but then having a payoff with the punchline at the end. And the punchline sometimes...
Sounds like my day, by the way.
Oh, beautiful. And it doesn't necessarily relate to the story that you started with. For example, one of my favorite Shaggy Dog stories actually literally is a dog story. This gentleman is driving home from a long business trip, and while driving home, he's going through this rural part of town, and he sees a sign on the side of the road that says, "Talking dog for sale, $10. So the businessman immediately turns off the road, heads down this long dirt road until he comes upon this man's ranch house. And on the porch of the ranch house is an old man sitting there in his rocking chair. Businessman gets out of the car, says, "Sir, I saw the sign on the side of the road. I'm here about the dog." And the old man says, "Well, he's around back. Go on back there, you can meet him." So the gentleman walks around to the back of the house, and sure enough, there's this beautiful senior black lab. And the businessman approached the black lab and says, "Are you a talking dog?" The dog looks at him and says, "Yup." The businessman is shocked. He says, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, Mr. Dog, can you tell me how did you discover that you can talk?" And the beautiful black lab says, "Well, I discovered it when I was just a pup. And as soon as I realized that I could talk, I immediately called the CIA. And the CIA employed me and sent me overseas as a special agent. I would infiltrate the camps of generals and the camps of dictators, because who would expect that the dog was actually a secret agent for the CIA? Well, then after a while, I was getting kind of tired of the life on the road overseas, so I came back to the States and got a great job with the TSA at the airports. And I spent a lot of time just walking around the airports, caught a lot of terrorists, caught some drug smugglers. And then after a while of doing that, I was getting kind of tiring, so I decided it was about time for me to retire and settle down with a beautiful Labradoodle and raise a family full of pups.
Of course.
Right, and the businessman says, this is absolutely incredible. I would like for you to come home with me. I'll be right back." And so the businessman immediately leaves and goes back to the front of the house, where the old man's sitting there on the porch. He says, "Sir, I will take the dog. Here's $10. And the old man gladly accepts his $10 cash. And the businessman says, now, if you don't mind, I gotta ask you, why are you selling the dog for only $10? The old man says, "Because the dog's a liar. He's never left the backyard." And that's a Shaggy Dog story.
Oh, man. Wow. I mean, I forget where it was right now. That is amazing.
Okay, and if my story can do that, then that's terrific. I have achieved my goal. You have completely lost your train of thought.
That was almost out of body. All right, so Ryan, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. Okay, one of our key questions here at TMPodcast 84. By the way, I'm here with once again with Ryan Stiner, amazing speaker, magician, mentalist, Toastmaster. What else can we throw in there? Trainer.
And
Shaggy.
fan of dogs, yes.
Fan of dogs. Yeah, I see the awesome pictures you put of Crypto.
Crypto the super dog.
Right.
That's
Crypto
our
the super
pup.
dog.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, I'm a person listening to this podcast, and I was just mesmerized by your story, and I'm thinking, God, I wish I could do that. I mean, I have so many stories to tell, but I'm just not. I just don't have the courage to just say that on the spot. What's your advice to that person listening in right now?
Well, what's your motivation? Why are you wanting to get involved in Toastmasters? Or do you recognize that there's an opportunity there for you to grow as a speaker? Is this something for professional development? Maybe you see this as a need to be able to sell yourself with that elevator pitch when you bump into the manager or the director or the CEO at your place of business. And if that's the case, if you see that this is an area that you need to grow, you need to take that extra step, but you're not sure that you're there yet, you just got to start by putting yourself out there. Toastmasters is a very supportive environment. And because Toastmasters have speakers of all different ability levels, it doesn't matter where you are currently on your public speaking journey. The feedback and the constructive criticism that you're going to get will always only help you grow. And if perhaps you need to start small and start with just a thought of the day, or maybe start small with a challenge, a short challenge like the table topics, these are good baby steps just to get you up there and get you a little bit more comfortable. And then build on that. Take every opportunity that you have. As a magician, I spent time performing in China. I spent time living and performing in Las Vegas. And while in Las Vegas, I was surrounded by many people far more experienced and far more talented than I was. And so at first it was intimidating being in that environment and going to magic meetings and hanging out in magic clubs where there are people, names that I knew and names that I recognized in the magic community. And then people would say, "Hey, Ryan, we haven't seen you perform something yet." How do I get up in front of people that have their names on theaters in Las Vegas saying, "Hey, Ryan, I haven't seen you perform anything yet"? How do I do a trick for that person? It was just a matter of putting myself out there and said, okay, you know what? Let's give me a deck of cards. Let's do something. So being brave, taking that first step, seeing that this is something that I want, but I've got to make that first move. And I was never negatively criticized in that environment for anything that I performed for somebody that I felt was far better than I was. And I've never seen anybody criticized negatively in Toastmasters by somebody who's far more comfortable and far more experienced in public speaking. It's a great environment. If you know, awesome. if somebody knows that that's what they need to work on, just take that first step.
And yeah, I definitely will agree with everything you said there, and just add that, it's almost the opposite. I mean, the more seasoned the speaker is, or the more the more comfortable, like you said, a speaker is, the more supportive they tend to be, especially to the new joins, to the new members. But Ryan, this has been an amazing podcast interview for me. Putting this together, I'm sure when I go back to listen to this, I'm going to take more notes and just get some of these insights. But what I would like to do right now is to again turn it over to you and just ask, where can people find you? Where's some kind of plug yourself out there? How can people? I'm sure there's people thinking, I need to talk to this guy. How can they reach out to you?
Oh, if you're here at Wyndham, of course, that's the easiest place that you can get in touch with me here at Wyndham. But otherwise, you can always find me at ryansteinermagic.com. That's where you're going to get information about my gigs. Both my wife and I perform together with our very talented and trained magical dog, Crypto, the super dog. We've taught him some card tricks, and we're working on teaching him how to levitate. That's the next big one, levitating Crypto.
Levitating Crypto.
Right. Well, he's a super dog, so a super dog should be able to fly, right?
It kind of makes sense.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if a talking dog is necessarily a super dog, but definitely a flying dog.
Absolutely.
Is definitely a super dog.
Yeah, so that's RyanStinerMagic.com.
Okay, wonderful. And let me ask, crypto, is that in any way connected to the cryptocurrency, or is it just a play?
That's crypto with a C. This is actually crypto with a K.
With a K.
Crypto, the super dog, it was Superman's dog.
And this is all making sense. You got a Superman mug here.
That's right.
And then crypto. Oh my God, it's all making sense.
And he does in fact have his own Superman style cape that he wears.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. I got to check this out.
You do.
Myself. So once again, Ryan, thank you for your time. I appreciate all your insights and feedback.
Dave, it was a pleasure.
Awesome. And I hope you guys listening to it got as much from it as I did. Make sure to check out Ryan on his website.
It's RyanStinerMagic.com.
You know what it is. So let's stay in touch and stay tuned for the next episode. We're out.